When everything becomes cheap enough to win, no one really wins. The first time I heard that line, it sounded poetic, dramatic even. But then you look at China's rise, the factories, the lights that never turned off, the prices that kept falling like gravity itself had joined the supply chain. And suddenly this sentence stops being poetic. It becomes a warning. China once looked unstoppable, the factory of the world, a place where efficiency wasn't just a goal, it was an art form, a philosophy, a religion. Entire cities breathing in diesel and breathing out products. Malls, phones, shoes, solar panels, everything. But every miracle hides a cost. And China's greatest strength, its ability to make everything cheaper, faster, bigger, eventually became the very thing pulling it down. To understand how, we have to rewind. Back to the beginning. It's 1978. China is exhausted, politically, economically, emotionally. The Cultural Revolution has left scars you can't see on maps. And then Deng Xiaoping steps up and breaks one of socialism's biggest taboos. He says, basically, getting rich is not shameful. Actually, it's patriotic. That one sentence flips the country upside down. Peasants become entrepreneurs overnight. Farmers turn into factory owners, or at least factory workers. Foreign money, Japanese, American, European, smells opportunity like wolves smell blood in the snow. China creates these special economic zones, little pockets where ideology goes on vacation. Shenzhen, just a sleepy fishing village, becomes ground zero. Within a generation, it transforms from huts to skyscrapers, from silence to machinery, from 30,000 people to millions. And the formula spreads. Every province wants its own miracle. Every city wants its own Shenzhen. Local governments borrow like crazy. They build highways, ports, power plants, industrial parks, anything to attract factories, anything to keep the machine running. By the early 2000s, China isn't just growing. It's devouring steel, coal, oil, copper, and eventually, the world's manufacturing jobs. If something can be produced, it will eventually be made in China. But this success has a catch, a hidden incentive that no one notices at first. To win, you must be cheaper. Always cheaper. And so the race begins. The race to the bottom. Local governments cut land prices, then taxes, then wages. Factories cut margins, then quality, then profits. For a while, none of it matters. Workers flood into cities by the millions. Young, desperate, disciplined. 12-hour shifts become normal. Holidays optional. Sleep negotiable. Western consumers celebrate. $5 t-shirts? $300 iPhones? Inflation magically frozen? Of course they celebrate. China gets rich. The world gets cheap. Everyone seems to win. But somewhere between the 10th new shopping center and the 100th steel mill, something snaps. You can almost hear it if you listen closely. The sound of an engine running past redline. The miracle becomes an addiction. Local governments need more growth to pay back old loans. So they borrow more to build more factories, to attract more factories, which produce more goods that nobody actually needs more of. By 2015, China has more steel capacity than the rest of the world combined. Entire industrial zones are producing products faster than global demand can absorb them. Prices start falling, not because of innovation, but because of desperation. Factories don't slow down when profits disappear. They accelerate. They try to outrun the collapse. They can't. And that's when a new word enters the story. Involution, an economy eating itself. You might have heard it used for students, workers, people running faster and faster just to stay in place. But now it's industrial. Companies produce more for less. Competitors copy them. Margins vanish. Wages stall. Profits evaporate. And consumers cheer because, hey, cheap is good. Until they realize cheap is just the sound of prosperity dissolving. Solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries, the crown jewels of China's future. Except they've turned into battlegrounds. Dozens of companies, many state-backed, all selling almost the same product, all cutting prices to survive, all afraid to stop producing because stopping means death. It's not a race to innovate anymore. It's a race to the bottom, and no one ever wins those. The mirage of triumph. On the outside, China still looks invincible. Record exports, shiny new factories, billions of dollars of electric cars waiting in massive parking lots for buyers who may never come. But inside, profit margins are collapsing. In 2024, industrial profits fall over 20%, not because factories stop exporting, but because they export too much, too cheaply. Growth continues, on paper, yet the quality of that growth, eroding from the inside out, like a skyscraper built on sand. But here's the twist. Some of this isn't a mistake. Some of it is intentional. Weaponized efficiency. China has a strategy. Undercut everyone. Flood the market. Make the world dependent. Once rivals die, once supply chains revolve around China, prices can be raised. Control can be exerted. It worked for steel, for rare earth minerals, for shipbuilding. Now they're trying it for the future. EVs, batteries, solar. It's ruthless. It's brilliant. It's dangerous. Because there's a limit. A point where efficiency stops being power and becomes sickness. When every company expects a subsidy, innovation dies. When provinces compete in overbuilding, productivity becomes politics. And when growth becomes the only acceptable truth, slowing down becomes unthinkable. That's the trap. A system that can't stop. Factories don't keep running because it's profitable. They keep running because politics demands motion. Local governments need output to repay debt. Banks need loans to justify their books. The central government needs jobs to maintain social peace. If one piece stops, the whole chain shakes. So everyone keeps pretending. More output equals more prosperity. More production equals more strength. More cheap goods equals more success. Even when none of that is true anymore. The global consequence. The irony? China's overproduction is keeping global inflation low, which sounds good, while crushing China's own wages and demand. The world gets cheap goods. China gets a weaker middle class. And the more China exports deflation, the more fragile the global system becomes. Western factories shut down. Developing nations struggle to industrialize. Everyone becomes dependent on the same source. Cheap abundance starts to feel dangerous. History has seen this before. Britain, Japan, Rome. Every empire that masters efficiency eventually pushes itself into imbalance. Not because it fails, but because it oversucceeds. The final irony. China now produces more solar panels, batteries, and electric cars than the world can possibly buy. These are the tools we need for the energy transition, humanity's future lifeline. And yet, their prices are collapsing so fast that companies can't survive long enough to innovate. Cheap abundance becomes a trap, not because it creates poverty, but because it destroys the motivation to create more. China doesn't suffer from too little efficiency. It suffers from too much. A superpower optimized past the point of stability. A machine that forgot why it was built, only that it must keep moving. Because when a system optimizes everything except balance, the only thing left for it to destroy is itself. If this changed the way you see the world, hit subscribe. History has answers hiding everywhere. You just have to know where to look.